Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Weekly Spinner Rack. It's me, Chris, with my co-host, Lily. I don't know if she's super excited about being here. Let's see if she's here after we start the opening music. We do still have a cat here, but there she goes. I think that's all you get, folks. She's going to go play with her brother. Welcome to the show. My name is Chris, and this is the Weekly Spinner Rack, where we are going to talk about this week's comics and comics news. And there is a lot of it. There is a lot of spicy stuff. In fact, stuff that was just happening literally just before I started the show. There are people in social media who are very upset that in the new Ninja Turtles movie, April is Black. I'm going to argue that is hearkening back to the original comics. But let's give a shout out to some of the folks that are here early. Lovely to see all of you. Let's see. I've got a bonjour. That's a very fancy way of starting things. Hello to Say No More Gov and Black Phoenix. Hello, Joe Dent. I'm doing okay. Spicier than the Vampirella statues behind you? Hey, that might be a hint at what's happening if you stay all the way to the end of this show. Devil Salute, I'd love to give you one. Boom, boom. That hurt. This is why I'm not doing perfect. I am dealing with some severe rotator cuff pain in this shoulder, my left shoulder. Very painful. Andy, always lovely to see you. Yes, I think I've got a pretty good kitten there. Look at that. He always wears that shirt at night, mostly. Oh, good reference. But this isn't Alien. This is Alan, which states that in space, nobody can hear you in space. Just silly. But hello, everybody. Yeah, Beowulf, you are right. So tell you what, before I start in the comics and start into the news, and the news is going to be really fun today, I'll just tell you that this past weekend on Saturday, I went to a comic convention. It was the Emerald City Comic Con, and it was okay. And what got me thinking about that just now is it was definitely pretty full. There was definitely a good size crowd, no question. They're definitely selling tickets. So I'm walking back and forth in Artist Alley, like my backpack on this shoulder, not on both because it just hurts too much. But it was so crowded that like people would innocently enough like bump across this shoulder, and it was agony. So I wasn't there, all things considered, that long. I'll tell you the highlights and the lowlights real quick. Highlights, probably cosplay. Boy, has that become an amazing part of going to conventions. All of the beautiful hard work that people put into these costumes. Just so much creativity, a lot of clever work, a lot of hard work. Really awesome to see that kind of stuff. Loved it. Second best thing for me personally, getting to have one-on-one conversations with a number of wonderful professionals that I really respect. Jim Mahfood I got to talk to. That was lovely. It really was. I got to talk with an artist I really admire named Stephen Russell Black. He mostly does painting, but he has done some comic book covers. Boy, is he talented. Got to talk to all sorts of wonderful people. Plenty of people that watch this show introduce themselves. That's flattering. That's flattering. That kind of makes your day. Here's the disappointment for me overall. First of all, not many big name guests. Not that I'm going there to get an autograph from I don't know, Donnie Cates or whatever it might be, like whoever the hot writer and artist is out there right now. I'm not there to get Peach Momoko to remark my cover. I respect these people a lot, but that's not why I necessarily go, because I don't love lines. I just don't love them. No publisher presence. When you go to a big comic convention and somebody like DC or Dark Horse or Image, they go all out with a really nice booth, they usually have some interesting stuff there to tell you about. They tend to have some big name guests there that are having a panel, or like right there on a stage, or doing like signatures or portfolio reviews. It's interesting to get to see them up close. They have exclusive merchandise and video and stuff like that. Yeah, Gantris, like, I did not see a present by Boom or Dynamite. And just to be clear, like, both Image Comics and Dark Horse are based in Oregon, not far away, but neither of them had an official booth. So that wasn't awesome, that wasn't awesome. And finally, I go down to the main show floor, the exhibitor floor, I'll say, sorry. They've got 2 floors at this new convention center. New convention center is beautiful, by the way. Really, really nice convention center, easy to navigate, lots of space, great facilities. I go to the exhibitor floor, and there were maybe 7 comic book retailers, like a comic book store there. And of those, a couple were very small, a couple were, golden age only kind of places. Just not many comics to sort through. I was really hoping to find some interesting comics. There were some holes that I had to fill. There were some bad comics I was looking for that shouldn't be worth that much, but could be in back issue bins. And even some manga I was hoping to pick up. Couldn't find any of it. Lots of places just selling, t-shirts, blind boxes, I don't know, just like, and lots of prints just everywhere. Just artists selling prints, not fan art. And that's fine, but there was so much of it. So it was a little rough in that regard. Anyway, so that was my overall thoughts. I did still have a good time. I just wish that there was more of a presence from comic book retailers and comic book publishers, and comic book guests. Maybe I sound like a broken record, but if I'm going to a big Comic-Con, that's what I'm going there for. That's me personally. Why do I think publishers aren't attending? Great question. Best guess, they probably feel that they don't necessarily need to. And it's very expensive, apparently. At least that's what I heard from talking to several comic book stores. I talked to several comic book stores, and they were like, you know what? This is a very expensive convention to attend. It's not like you really get that ROI. Anyway. Do they sell a lot of manga? If it's a big convention, absolutely. If it's a big convention, like New York Comic-Con, absolutely. You're going to find a ton of manga. Yeah, absolutely. Or I'm sure San Diego. So that was that. I just wanted to recap the Comic-Con. Tonight we're gonna review some comics, and I'm gonna do that pretty quick with just sort of like recommend, don't recommend type thing, because I want to get into the news and I want to get into a topic that was about the Ninja Turtles. So there's my sister with something sweet to say. Yes, today is also my wedding anniversary. It's my first anniversary being married. Chrissy got me it's a paper anniversary, theoretically. Chrissy got me a gift certificate to a favorite restaurant. I got her an original piece of artwork by Camilla Derrico, an artist that she really likes. So that was fun. Yes, I totally got it. Don't worry. I will be able to mail that out to you. Thank you, folks. Thanks for the kind words. That's nice of you. Yeah, pretty happy about that. So we'll have to do a good dinner when I wrap this up. let's add a screen here to talk about some comics. We're coming right up on the 10-minute mark. This is good timing. Oh, you know what was nice? I did have lunch with the writer of Radiant Black, Kyle Higgins. Let me turn on this light actually to show that a little. Yeah, that's a little better for now. Kyle's a great guy. He really is. He's talented, but he's nice. He's a nice guy. I'm really glad to have gotten to know him. So perhaps I'm biased, but I think I got to know him more because I became a fan of this comic and got to know his work. Radiant Black number 22 is one of my favorite issues in a while. It's all about one of the two leads, Nathan, and not doing really much superhero stuff. He goes back to LA because he was trying to be a writer, and he's got a guy that kind of dicked him over by pitching Nathan's story to a producer, and it's getting adapted, but through this other guy who isn't as talented, and that guy's also dating his ex-girlfriend. So it's some pretty awkward stuff, but boy, does it feel real. This is some really great character work that just brings you in. Some definitely great artwork too. Aw, Andrew, thank you so much. Chris's anniversary dinner fund. I will get $5 worth of French fries. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. How many of these creators did you know before Comic Tropes? Oh, just a small handful. I mean, I knew Robert Kirkman and a bunch of the guys that work on his books pretty well, but that was about it. Anyway, I really like this. I honestly, this is a pretty good jumping on point if you haven't read Radiant Black before. You get to know a little bit about the powers, a few hints, and you get to know one of the main characters very, very well. I loved this issue. I strongly recommend it. I'll just leave it at that so that we can keep moving on. This is a book that I think flew under a lot of people's radar, but I love. It's the final issue of Murderworld, written by Jim Zub. And is it Ray Fox? I think it's Ray. Yeah, it's Ray Fox. Artwork, I'm not familiar with this artist. Let me look that up. Sorry. Okay, Netho Diaz did the layouts and Lorenzo Tamietta did the pencils and inks. Good to know. This just is a story that escalates the Marvel supervillain arcade to a higher level, because instead of intentionally trying to trap superheroes, he has apparently an annual event where he places 200 normal people in his traps, and has them fight it out until only one can survive. And it goes in some great unexpected directions. I mean, this is some brutal stuff for, sort of superhero comics. It's awesome, folks. You get like, okay, Arcade is like sort of goofy and foppish, but boy, he's legit dangerous and a psychopath. I love this idea that he has quietly been doing this under the radar and that the superheroes don't really know about this. It's good. So, this is the final issue. I think it was 6 issues. It might have been 5. It's hard to know because they did one confusing thing. It would be titled Murderworld and then whichever superhero robots he was using in that issue. They had Avengers, Wolverine, Spider-Man, Moon Knight, and this. So I guess this is issue 5. Anyway, if you see it once it gets to trade paperback, I strongly recommend it. This is a great story. If you folks liked stuff like Squid Game or Battle Royale, it's kind of like that. Goofy and foppish are 50% of Batman's villains. Yeah, Arcade is a little bit of almost, now that I think of it, he's almost a bit of a Batman villain. But anyway, this is the 6th issue of Spider-Man, End of the Spider-Verse. Next issue is the final issue of this arc, Dan Slott and Mark Bagley. So those are two guys that know their Spider-Man. They've done a lot of great stuff. I think that Bagley, I'm starting to sort of realize as I get older that when he has more time, he gives more detail. There's certain artists that are just really good at hitting deadlines. but sometimes he can make some extra beautiful stuff. This is really fun. It's playing with multiverse stuff, but in a clever way. I don't know what to say without giving it away. I won't give it away, but I liked it. It isn't like my top recommendation. That would probably be this week. The next book I'm going to look at, Human Target, but it's very, very good. Very, very good. This was exceptional, though. Human Target, issue 12, final issue. So I don't want to spoil it, but let's look at just part of what makes it cool. The artwork by Greg Smallwood. Drew it and colored it. All the art by him. Story by Tom King. It carries a punch. It carries a punch. There's a lot that happens in this. I think ultimately, while it was called Human Target, what it ultimately did was really grow. Sorry, there's a scratch on the book I just felt. It really grew this character of Ice, Tora. It really grew her in an interesting way. And I don't know for sure if this is an Elseworld story or if this is sort of a new status quo for these characters, but it's pretty excellent. It's a really exceptional story. There's so many good things to say. Thank you, just real quick, Spider Plush. I appreciate that. And just some other people that I guess I can't wait to read it. Yep, no cop out on this issue. Exactly. It's been building up to something, and they don't sort of pull the rug out from under you and change the whole story or anything. It stays very consistent. Great comic. I'm positive this will make my top 10 of the year. It's early in the year, so to say that I am saying something, but this is a really exceptional book. I mean, even if it wasn't the story, and it is, the story's great, but even if it wasn't, I really think you have to give it to Greg Smallwood for what he's doing with these pages. These characters just feel so expressive and so real. And they look different from one another. To do this on a monthly schedule is very impressive. Yes, X, it's a 12-issue series. These two ladies it's the same artist, and every comics artist has this challenge of making their characters look different. But I think he does a great job at it. He's got some great design work here. Obviously not using extra lines where it's not really needed. We've got a subject here that's the focus, a drink on a table. And then the line for like books and stuff on the shelves are pretty superfluous. But it doesn't look bad. It just doesn't draw the attention away. Some really great decisions. Really, really great decisions. Anyway, I loved it. Pick of the week. Good point, Andrew Jefferson. There was a one-shot with like some... it was like an anthology with some of the supporting characters in this story done by other artists, and it just sort of helps flesh out some of the backstory. Not essential to knowing the full 12-issue story, but still decent supplementary material. Better than decent, just to be clear. I think you might be reading too much into that interpretation, Uros, but that's just my opinion. There is some stuff a little open to interpretation. Yeah, there totally is, design-wise, and I love it. This is Batman versus Robin, which is wrapping up the sort of Lazarus Planet stuff, and I wouldn't necessarily say that it's exceptional as an event, but there is a lot to like in this. It's written by Mark Waid. Gorgeous artwork by Mahmoud Asrar. Gorgeous artwork. And it essentially is, like the title says, Batman versus Robin. Batman, all you need to know, he's possessed by a demonic guy. Robin, fighting to hopefully save his father, but no matter what, save the world. He has to make some really tough decisions. And there is some stuff that if you can sort of be emotionally manipulated by everyone uniting for a good cause, you might feel some goosebumps here. If you watched the first Spider-Man movie and you didn't cringe, instead you sort of, smiled when all the New Yorkers started throwing garbage off the bridge at the Green Goblin, there's a moment like that in this story. Some interesting uses of magic, but yeah, good action, good action. It's melodramatic. Okay, so this is superhero stuff through and through, superhero stuff through and through. But I did enjoy it. Okay, I did enjoy it. Okay. Here's one I was pleasantly surprised by: Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead. And I guess I'm pleasantly surprised because, being written by Bruce Campbell, I went in with lowered expectations in terms of what can Bruce pull off for an established comic book character. Well, it turns out he can write it tonally very, very good. Certainly abetted by Eduardo Risso's moody, atmospheric artwork. We get the end of World War II here with Sergeant Rock fighting Hitler, powered by zombie juice, essentially. And it's a great, like, full issue drag out battle. It is bloody, it is brutal. There is some fantastic stuff that goes on in this. And when it all ends, like the war is essentially over, I won't show you that. Let's just say, because I don't want to give anything away about how this ends, but it leaves a door open for future stories set in this world, which would, after this, basically be post-war, but a little bit of supernatural. Imagine like X-Files if it had to be set back in the 1950s or late 40s. That could be interesting. I would be up for seeing more by Bruce Campbell if he wanted to continue this. Sergeant Rock, I've never really seen him work well outside of his World War II stories, but there are some steps taken here where you could show Easy Company doing something different, and it would sort of be like following up on these loose threads that the Axis powers had set up, maybe. Yes, great question, Andy. This is the final issue, 6 of 6. Great to see Eduardo Risso working on a monthly comic again. It was a treat. I loved his work in 100 Bullets. I think Eduardo Risso's artwork was my personal favorite part of that, beyond the story. So some great, great stuff happening in this. I do recommend it. If you haven't picked it up yet, maybe you can find the issues. If not, I'm sure that they will put out a trade. Yeah, great point here. Some really nice stuff here. Bring back Ghost Tank. It would fit in this world, yeah. Great storytelling. I agree. Not a pairing I would expect. Exactly. Well, but you know what? It works quite well. It works quite well. Hey, thanks so much for the support, James. I really appreciate that very, very much. Yes, there are stories where Sergeant Rock dies on the last day of World War II. I'm not going to talk about comparing and contrasting them, since I don't want to spoil what this is, but it's really, really good. And you know what this reminds me of in some ways? Take Inglourious Bastards, the Tarantino movie, and add a little bit more horror to it. Just a twinge of some of that Evil Dead zany enemy stuff. Have you read TMNT Lost Years? I am. Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's really cool. I like it a lot. Could go in some interesting directions is all I have to say. Even though that wraps up the story, could go in some interesting directions. Last book I'll talk about, and this is just funny, also written by an actor. We had Bruce Campbell. Now we've got Paul Dano. And I do have sort of the hair on my back of my neck stand up when I hear an actor is going to write a comic book. Obviously, anyone can have those skills, but you worry that they're just doing this as an idea to insert themselves into something. Well, both of these are different in that regard. Sergeant Rock, I didn't see a clear role that Bruce Campbell was envisioning for himself. He was just writing a cool story. Riddler Year One. Well, this is coming out after Paul Dano played the Riddler. He had created an elaborate backstory for his characters, and when he shared it with the producers and everything, they were like, you know what? That's good. We shouldn't waste that. That is so well thought out that let's tell that story. And that's what's happening in this. This is the Riddler Year One, specifically from the latest The Batman movie. And you'd go like, well, how good could it be, really? It's really good, folks. It's really well thought out. It feels authentic to the movie. It builds on this character's tragic past. It builds on what makes him tick. It builds on how he thinks and how he gets sort of corrupted, even though he thinks he's trying to do the right thing. You can totally see things from his point of view, that he is trying to do good in this world, and how that goes down a path, that isn't good, but he thinks it's good. And it's very good. It's a very good sort of crime mystery type of book. Very moody visuals, obviously. I think it fits. I think it's very appropriate. If you liked that movie, and I think a lot of people did, this gives you some more of that world without Batman being the focus, but it works very, very well. Obviously, this is a different version of the Riddler than what we typically get in mainstream DC comics, but it is a good version. It's a believable character. I'm surprised and impressed with this title, and I almost overlooked it because it was written by an actor. And then I was just like, on a whim, I picked up issue 1 after it had come out, like a week or 2 weeks later or something. It's good. It's good. A lot of recommendations this week. It was a strong week for comics. Sorry, this was just a sketch that I did before. Let me take this out, and we're going to talk about some news of the week, starting with this. I think it was early this morning. There was a new trailer for the upcoming animated Ninja Turtles movie. It's called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I think it looks like a lot of fun. It's got a unique art style. It's got some funny voice work. It reminds me of like the way Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse had some quirky, distinct artwork that helped make the characters feel kind of unique and new. But one thing that people don't seem to love online, and that's a microcosm, but on Twitter and places like that, people don't love this new take on April O'Neil because she's black. She was black, obviously, in the last cartoon, so this debate has happened before. People are like, was April intended to be black or white in the comics? It honestly is a little murky. I'm going to argue, I believe she was intended to be mixed race, which, in other words, basically black. Because if you look at some of the early artwork, like here's a 1985 sketch by Eastman and Laird, okay? Wait, I'm having trouble like centering things. Hold on. Why can I not? Bear with me. This was a sketch. Okay, I can't center that. That's frustrating. Let me move it over like this. But hopefully you can still sort of see that. That's a sketch. And you're like, okay, is that a white lady with a perm? Is that a black lady? I don't know. You know, I see that, and I do think that she was intended originally to be black. I will not argue that in the first cartoon, and honestly in the comics after a couple years, they definitely decided she was white, but I think she was originally intended to be black. Let me show you this. This is Kevin Eastman, one of the two guys that made the thing, made Ninja Turtles, with his girlfriend at the time that it was being created, April Fisher. She was mixed race, and she was an inspiration for how April was drawn. I look at that and it's not necessarily 100% clear. It's not. But I think that she was intended to be black. That's my argument. A lot of people say no, the name O'Neill and stuff. Let's see. Here's somebody that has a Eastman oversaw the in color reprints. Yeah, but those did come way later. And I think that they definitely changed to think that she was white, but I don't think she was originally intended to. I just don't. To be honest, I don't understand why people are upset. She's been black in the cartoon since I was about 11. Yeah. I see like this drawing and the photo of April Fisher, who Eastman does say like was an inspiration for the character. And I just think I think that look, they've never like neither Eastman nor Laird has flat out just said she was XYZ. They've talked about inspirations. But anyway, that's really all I have to say about that one. I look at her and I think that she was intended to be biracial. I don't think he did. I don't think he did. Anyway. Hello, Clay. You say the cartoon and toy company has asked that you be changed to white. I don't know. I've never heard that either, just to be clear. I don't know like if there was any sort of day where they just like made the decision. There are color reprints of the comics where April is definitely colored to be a white person. But that was a few years later. It's not a big deal to me. People love to complain about things that don't matter. I didn't know it was so controversial. Good for you folks. Good for you folks. Twitter and Reddit can be a bubble sometimes. There is a lot of people arguing vehemently that there is no way she was ever intended to be black. I think that it's debatable no matter what was said, because I look at the presentation and I think that it was something. It's not that important though. It's not that important. I don't think it affects who the character is too much one way or the other. Let's get into some more news of the week. Let me add a window here. I've got some good stuff to share this week. I'm excited about this, to be honest. I'm really excited. We're going to add that. Oh, come on. What's taking so long, computer? All right. It took a minute to chug along for that. Let's see. Loudest voices have the least to say. I'm excited for this either way. Did you mean for that to be a rhyme? Either way, you did. And I think it looks like a good take on Turtles. I love that Ninja Turtles is versatile enough that it can have so many different interpretations. I really do. That Nickelodeon animated series was really good. The first one is what I'm talking about, where like the sort of CG Turtles. I really like that one. All right, so we've got some news. Let's do it. First thing I'm gonna do is once again promote myself. Hopefully, folks have at least taken a look. But if you haven't, I've got a campaign. It's only up for basically 2 more weeks now. I'm really not even at a third of what I want to be at, so it's probably not going to hit my dream goal, but who knows? You always get a little bit of a burst on the last 2 days. It's going well. I wish it was going better, but no complaints, no complaints. Instead, all I can say is I'm super grateful for every bit of support. It's really nice. I hope you'll consider checking it out. It's on Indiegogo. Dynamite is running the campaign. They gave me a great opportunity. I drew a cover for Vampirella. I think it's pretty cool and pretty funny. Hopefully you will consider taking a look. I have to plug myself. It is my show, so got to do that. Plug over for now, but if you folks stay till the end, it's possible I might have something special for the people that stay till the end. Here's the first thing of news that I'm going to go through. Take a look at that. What are we looking at there? It probably just looks like a bunch of color on the screen. I think that this is amazing. Um, Fantastic Four issues 7 and 8 each will have a wraparound cover. So this is 2 covers back to back, spread out. Issue 7 would legacy number be issue 700. So Marvel did something kind of fun. They had artist Scott Koblish illustrate every character that has ever appeared in the comic book. This is so much to look at. I can zoom in, can't I? How do I zoom in? Doesn't let me. It doesn't let me on this app. Okay, that's great. Zoom. There we go. Here we go. Let me zoom in for a little bit just so you can get a sense of this. Look at all these characters. This is so much fun to look at and try to find specific people. You're like, can I find, I don't know, Two Gun Kid or something? I think he's over here, but there's another like Indian character. Indian character? That's not great, Chris. I meant Cowboys and Indians character, but like, yeah, a cowboy in there. We've got Guardians of the Galaxy, all sorts of great cosmic villains. You've got your big guys like Doctor Doom and Annihilus. But what's really fun is if you really, really, really look, you are going to find 2 examples of characters like Storm and Colossus. And like there's Colossus once, and I forget where he is the second time. But this is how deep it's going into the lore. In issue 250 of Fantastic Four, some Skrulls impersonated some of the X-Men. So that's all that is. I love that. I think that's so cool. I think that's just a blast. Well, I just wanted to show that for a little bit because that represents a lot of hard work. I'm so glad you're promoting this. Scott is a friend, and I think he is a grossly underrated artist. It's so cool. Two Gun Kid. Just about every classic Marvel character. Let's see. Please donate to the Scott Koblish Drawing Hand Memorial Fund. Oh, it's a joke. Okay. I took that seriously. You're joking because of how much he drew here. Yeah, look at how many people like it. The FF cover is amazing. Paste Pop Pete. Yes, I am in there as Paste Pop Pete. He asked for reference. No. But it just looks fun. I'm already reading this take on Fantastic Four, but I will definitely be getting these covers because that is just fun to pore over. I've always loved these kind of elaborate things that guys like George Perez and Arthur Adams have done. I love trying to like locate certain characters and looking at it and going like, wait a minute, who is that character? Because there are ones in here that I don't necessarily know off the top of my head. But there's a lot that are great. As long as we're talking about the art above was by Scott Koblish. Wraparound covers I already mentioned. This is just an interesting bit of trivia. In September of 2022, Jamie Sullivan set the record for the most characters on a cover of a monthly comic with 313 on G.I. Joe number 300. Fast forward less than half a year, obviously Scott Koblish has demolished that because he's got like something like over 367 on this half alone. And then like, again, like, 300 plus on this side. So he kind of demolished that. Is his hand going to be okay after drawing this? I've said online, I would love to know the full process of Scott drawing this in terms of like what he decided to do for a layout. He clearly made some specific decisions on like putting the Fantastic Four and their closest family members here, sort of a retro FF on this side, a lot of main characters along the bottom, a lot of big villains get like more space than others. Silver Surfer's pretty prominent, Namor, but a lot of these characters are super, super tiny. And I wonder like if he had a list of everyone he wanted to put in, or if he just sort of like kept filling it in and then like would do even smaller to fill in. I don't know. I would love to know the whole process for creating something like that. He would be proud and probably jealous. Yep. Phil Jimenez is great at that stuff, no question. Yeah, I know the posters you're talking about with all the Simpson characters. I don't know how big the original art is. I don't know anything about it, unfortunately. I looked and I didn't see an interview about it yet. I hope that Scott will consider doing an interview. Is this digital? Is this pencil? Is this a combination? You think Scott had the record previously with Deadpool issue 300? I don't know, but it's great. It's great. And then since we were talking about Scott Koblish, thought I'd mention this other book that he's got coming out next month, Kokju or Kokyu. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's like a super sort of offensive kaiju book where he does all sorts of bodily functions. Moving on, this is something I made an episode about once, right? The corner box art, where it would say Marvel Comics and you'd see the heads of the characters that were going to be in that. Let me actually adjust this a little smaller. There we go. I think that fits, right? Yeah. Mark Brooks has talked on Twitter forever about wanting to do this kind of stuff. Well, it looks like Marvel has actually let him. He's going to be doing X-Men and Avengers corner box art for each of their 60th anniversaries. And he said online that there are more to come. So these are the only ones he's shared so far. But I love corner box art. I just think it's cool. And I'm glad to see it coming back, even if it's just sort of a one-time gimmick. This is a good question. Chemdog says, I don't know why they even stopped. Probably because they didn't need to anymore. I think originally it was a way to make the cover stand out on the newsstand racks. We don't really have them on newsstands anymore, do we? We have them at comic book shops where you get to see a lot more of the cover in general. They're usually not on spinner racks. They've usually got more of their cover showing. I think it was a way to, if you couldn't even see the full thing, like if they were like stacked side by side on a tight newsstand or something, you'd at least go, okay, that's Marvel and I see Batman. I don't even need to see the title. The top third. I can just see the corner and I'll know what that is. So I think that's, and they just don't need to do it anymore. Would love to see these back. So many styles that can be done. I would love it. Yep. I miss them too. Corner box art is so classic. Love Mark Brooks art. Yep. Very, very fun. So I thought I'd promote that. They've each got their 60th anniversaries coming. Glad that Marvel is having something fun there. They may not need them anymore. At the same time, I do consider it part of their brand. And if they brought it back and did nice stuff like this, I think that that's still good branding. Here's a big piece of news. Joe Madureira's Battle Chasers is returning. And hey, it's only been 20 issues since the last issue. Yes, this is the cover for issue 10. Issue 10. It did not get very far, did it? 20 years since we've seen issue 9. And just to be clear, it took 4 years to get the first 9. 4 years. It was not a comic that was known for coming out on a fast schedule. But Joe Madureira was very, very, very popular. I'm excited to see it come back, but that excitement is tempered by one thing. And if you look really closely up here, you'll see Joe's name, and then you see somebody else's name. Well, even though he drew the cover, he is not drawing the interiors anymore. He is only writing his story. And Battle Chasers, if you don't know it, and I don't blame you if you don't, because it has been 20 years, sort of a steampunk fantasy series. Got Red Monica. She's sort of like a thief, a rogue. We've got Garrison, who's basically like Gara from Bastard or Guts from Berserk. We've got, I want to say her name was Noel. She's sort of like had some magic powers. I forget this guy's name, but he was essentially a golem robot. And then this guy was like, yeah, like the wise old master wizard that was like training her. It looked cool. It looked cool. But the artwork inside is going to be drawn by somebody named Ludo Lullaby. And I have to assume that that is a pen name. I believe that it's meant to return on an ongoing basis. Ongoing basis. Isn't that a record for time between issues? Pretty sure it is. Others that have taken a long time would include Kevin Smith's Bullseye series. Had a huge break for many years between. What else? Didn't we get some other book that came back this year that's been gone for quite a while? All of a sudden, it's leaving my head. Only thing I can think of. Oh yeah, sorry. Thanks for the Calibretto. That's the name of the golem. Gully. Why did I think it was Knoll? You're right, Gully. Thanks, folks. Thanks everybody. What was I gonna say about the book? Oh yeah, just in terms of like books with a long gap, the only thing I can think that would compete that was like, a famous comic that stopped, and if it came back it would have a bigger gap, but it is not coming back. Let's just be clear. There's no way. Big Numbers, the Alan Moore Bill Sienkiewicz book, 3 issues. It's been longer. Oh, I know what else I was thinking that came back this year that had a long break. Miracle Man. Of course, Miracle Man. Huge break. Was that more than 20 years? I don't think that was more than 20. Miracle Man's break might have been longer than Battle Chasers, folks. Miracle Man might have been longer. Yes, Image United never finished. That's another thing that has taken on a long time. Yep. I think 1963 at Image Comics has returned, and that had a long break. Right. Hunter x Hunter did have a long hiatus. There have been hiatuses on several manga, but nowhere close to something like this. 30 years for Miracle Man. Thank you, Philip, for double checking the time. So longer on Miracle Man, longer on that. No, I don't think that the 63 annual is longer. I think Miracle Man is longer. Hello, Steve. Ballad of Halo Jones by Alan Moore never finished. There's obviously several things by Alan Moore that are unfinished. Big Numbers, Ballad of Halo Jones, 1963, all projects that he worked on. I don't think that they're going to come back. So we're talking about things that came back. Yeah. There's a quote by Joe Madureira about this. I'll read that. He says, with the success of the Battle Chasers game Night War, there is a game, by the way, and a TV show in the works, interesting, it felt like the perfect time to drop some new books, plural. Working with these characters again has healed some part of my soul, and Ludo's artwork is so incredible, I can't wait for readers to get their hands on it. I have not seen what Ludo's artwork looks like. That would be interesting to know. Let me double check that there isn't something I can show you there. Okay, actually there is some stuff that I can show you. Bear with me a moment. I'm gonna pull something up so that you guys can see some of Ludo's artwork. Hi. Let me add a window here. It's of a kind. It's of a kind with Joe Madureira. If we look at this stuff. Yeah. There's some similarities there. There's some similarities. Enough that like fans should probably be okay with it. Yeah. Okay. I'd prefer it to be Joe Madureira, but I also just don't think that's going to happen. So if you wanted to see this continue, I think that this is your only option, basically. How many of you out there are even old enough that you were reading Battle Chasers when it came out? Because I did. I was a fan of Joe Madureira at the time. I definitely was. Yeah, definitely very similar. I agree. You're a wizard, Alan. Wow, I just nailed it with that impression. All right. Well, I'll move on because we've got lots of news and something special to do at the end. Oh, Randy, lovely to see you here. I had it all. You still do, buddy. You're a fan of me? Well, then buy my cover. Indiegogo.com, comic tropes. You'll see a Vampirella cover. Please get it. A comic book friend said it's a little silly that it's coming back now. I mean, there is a game out there. It hasn't ever completely disappeared. Joe Madureira did return after his Battle Chasers stuff. He did Ultimates 3, not a comic I loved, but he's never like gone completely away for long stretches. So whatever. No, Steve, I'm pretty sure that like they eventually canceled that listing in Diamond. I'm pretty sure. You did read it? Got it. Oh, okay. You picked up the trade after buying the game. That's an interesting way to come across it. You remember reading it back in middle school. Very influenced by manga stuff and anime. So yeah, big Joe Mad fan. Joe Mad's mostly focused on Darksiders. He does love that sort of Capcom art style. But you know what? We hadn't seen lots and lots of that in American comics. So it was new at the time, and it gave his X-Men comics definitely something different. We'll move on. This is one I'm kind of impressed with seeing. Is that? Yeah. Dark Horse is teaming up with the webcomics Tapas. Randy, if you're still in here, don't you release some of your comics on Tapas? I know Webtoons better than I know Tapas, but I know that Tapas is got a good size imprint. Not that they're like perfect, but yeah. I am sure I am too young to even know Joe Mad. I think I sensed some sarcasm there, EJ. Anyway, Dark Horse announced that as of October of this year, they are going to print 3 of the comics that are popular on Tapas, including Animal Heads, Signals, four, sorry, The Flying Ship, and Tomahawk Angel. The first bullet is on both. Tough to put it out for free. Yeah. Randy just wrapped up his campaign for issues 2 and 3 of Bullet, or Bullet Adventures. But yeah, Bullet is on Tapas. Okay, good. Dark Horse, I think, is getting into an interesting space. They have been printing a bunch of digital first comics. They did a bunch of stuff that Scott Snyder did with all sorts of different artists through Comixology. They just did Blue Book, which I'm pretty sure James Tynan and Michael Avon Oming did digital first. And now they're doing this Tapas stuff. And hopefully this is something that's good for Tapas as well, because, they seem to be doing all right. But last year they did lay off 30% of their staff. So, hey, sometimes businesses have to do that to get more lean. We're going to talk about actually some of that with a different company tonight. But I do think it's an interesting space to get into. This idea of like, okay, hey, the material's already done. We'll come up with the print version. I think it can only help. I think it can only help. They did Afterlift with Chip Zdarsky. Got it. Good for them. Dark Horse people were like worried about when they lost things like the Star Wars license and Alien and Predator. I get that, but getting into this one area that none of the other print publishers are specializing in. Some of them have done onesies and twosies, but I think it's smart. I think it's it's very clever to do this. There are probably some interesting decisions that are going into reformatting how it will look for print and making sure that they've got, the high res files and the layout that they need. But I think it's a good idea. I do. A lot of us still prefer a physical book over a digital. I do read digital stuff, but I do prefer a paper copy. That's just my preference. Here's some more Ninja Turtle stuff. Maybe I should have done 2 Ninja Turtle stories in a row. I don't know. This is a screenshot from a news story in Western Massachusetts. So, if you don't know, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird lived in a Massachusetts town called Northampton when they came up with Ninja Turtles. They formed Mirage Studios in that town. Um, Kevin Eastman started a comic book history museum there for a long time. It's not in business anymore, but it was there for a long time. And the town has decided to embrace some of that heritage. It's been like 40 years since it was created, but they're going to spend $20,000 of their city's American Rescue Plan Act money to paint 4 different manhole covers on Main Street as a tribute to the Turtles. I can only assume they chose 4 so that they could do them one in each of the colors. This is going to give work to a local artist or 2 and it's going to their goal is to promote tourism to their town, embrace some of their artistic heritage. This was the mayor's idea. The mayor's taking the credit for it or the blame. Because, just to be clear, not everybody's for this. There's a guy named Paul Craney of the Massachusetts Fiscal Alliance, and he called it a frivolous expense that wastes taxpayer money. I think $20,000 of a town's money, they got a few million. I don't think it's that big of an expense for what you get out of it. If you're going to promote Ninja Turtles on Main Street in the town where they were created, that sounds like you'll probably get the $20,000 back in visitors. I really do think that. Even if it's just some local people from Massachusetts or Connecticut or something, I think you'll get that $20,000 back. And you're probably giving that money to a local artist, so that helps the community as well. That's my take on it. I feel like this is a good idea. Hamza says, I went to UMass Amherst. I used to visit Northampton all the time. I wish I still lived close enough now to see this. I would love to see that too. Yeah, the money is specifically paying the artist. That's what it's for. I think it's a good idea. What a total cranny. Yeah, it's not like a tourist attraction on the level of, the Empire State Building or something like that. But if you were local or you're a big Ninja Turtles fan, sure. I don't think that that's that much money. I don't think it's a waste either. I really don't. I think they'll get that back. How many in the chat can recognize the Turtles by the shade of green? That would be a big fan. It's nice to see average people be proud of comics history rather than embarrassed by it. As far as I'm concerned, spending money on art for your town is worth it. Art brings life to areas. That's another thing. You could argue it beautifies the town. What, has anybody ever just looked at a manhole and gone nice? But if it's decorated, cool. You're going to notice that. You're going to go okay, this town is doing something to beautify itself. A town that puts murals on the wall or paints their electrical junction boxes and stuff, I look at that and I go, cool, that's nice. Well, it's not Mount Rushmore because we're not destroying some sort of sacred native land. We're just painting some manhole covers. And art and aesthetic improvement don't have to make profit. No, sometimes it's beauty for beauty's sake. But if are paying a local artist and you're beautifying your town, I think that there's benefits all over. I don't think $20,000 is that much money to pay for something like this. I really don't. And the news article on this, it was local news, but they went and just interviewed people on the streets. And everybody was like, yeah, that sounds like a fun idea. Everybody thought it sounded fun. No love for Master Splinter. Well, maybe they were trying to not spend $25,000. I don't know. Saw an Aztec calendar cover in Pilsen, Chicago, and thought it was really neat. There are towns, what is it? Providence, Rhode Island. If you go through Providence, Rhode Island, there are little statues, and I'm trying to remember what they are, but there's lots of differently colored same statues, and it's all based on a Hasbro toy because Hasbro is a Providence, Rhode Island company. There's a thing where a town invested money to sort of embrace some of their roots. I can't remember which thing, whether it was like, Mr. Potato Head or what. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been decades since I was there, but I just remember that was something they did. Councilman Shredder, exactly. Anyway. I thought I'd mention it because to me, it sounded fun and different, and this is a small town, so let's give them a little bit of a plug. I actually love seeing Manhole covers with a traffic line painted, but put back in another direction so it doesn't line up. Manhole covers are my passion. There is passion, folks. It was Mr. Potato Head. Thank you for confirming, David. I couldn't remember off the top of my head. But I'm sure that people would argue like, oh, you're just promoting one company, but they had different artists paint these statues in different ways throughout the town. And it's embracing the fact that Hasbro probably employs a lot of people in that town. There's a lot of history to it. So, sometimes commerce and art and culture can intersect, and it doesn't all have to be a negative thing. Let's see. Yeah, but why does that Manhole cover initiative cost so much? I bet only a small fraction of the money actually goes to the artist and the rest lines the pockets of somebody who doesn't deserve it. Who's to say? Who's to say that? Like, maybe they're giving an artist like their fair wage. I don't think that like $5,000 to do a good painted job on a Manhole cover canvas is unreasonable at all. Maybe it all will go straight to them. So I don't want to assume. This is a very small piece of news, so I don't have a whole lot to react to, but Grant Morrison hinted at some new comics coming up. This was a small video that they posted to their Substack called Xanadu. We've got Eden's End was written out as coming out this spring, and we sort of already knew about that. We know that Liam Sharp is going to be doing the art for that. Liam and Grant worked together on Green Lantern before. Looks like it's some sort of a sci-fi story. Okay. These other two, we haven't heard anything, and as to what they are, don't know. Poison Peach. Your guess is as good as mine with that name. I don't think that I can intuit from there. And then this, for autumn of this year, says It's a Dead, and then we can't see any of the rest of it. I'm sure maybe that's the whole title, or maybe there's something cut off. Is that horror? Is this mystery? I don't know. But I generally like what Grant Morrison creates, so color me intrigued. That's all I'll say. If anybody knows anything about it, let me know. I don't subscribe to any Substacks, and I probably should because there are several that do interest me. And I've just sort of like each time I think of subscribing to one, I go, okay, if I'm going to do one, I'm probably going to do 3. And do I have the time to like add this reading to my day? Am I going to get the value out of it? I might, but I might not. So I haven't made that I haven't pulled the trigger yet. Maybe Poison Peach is drawn by Peach Momoko. Well, that's just good marketing. Sounds a lot like a Paste Pop Pete. Yeah, it probably is. Probably is. You have no clue what Substack is. Substack is essentially a newsletter that you can subscribe to. Think of it like Patreon, to be honest. Just think of it like that. And the people that run that Substack can release newsletters or just posts, blog posts, or videos, share artwork. It's just that you subscribe to it to get exclusive content. It's as simple as that. And a bunch of people release entire comic books through Substack. If you go to Brian K. Vaughn's Substack, he releases a comic for free on it. You don't even have to subscribe and pay any money. But anyway, so that's what it is. Have only heard of the Three Worlds, Three Moons Substack. Obviously, they got a lot of publicity when they did theirs. Yeah. Patreon for writers, more or less. Yeah, but you could say it's for artists too. But it is something that a lot of writers are using. A lot of writers are using it. You think it's a Mario movie tie-in? That does sound like Grant Morrison. That they would definitely want to do some sort of a cartoon movie, comic book spinoff. Right. It's a way to directly support the creators. There's very, very little overhead. It pretty much all goes straight to them. So it's a way to support artists that you want to see more work from. Yeah. I'll be honest, sometimes I give a little bit of thought to learning more and maybe going there instead of stuff like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram because it can be so negative in those environments. Why not just speak directly to people that are interested in your work? I don't know. I don't want to be in an echo chamber, but sometimes there's something nice to be said about people just having that like close relationship of like, I like your work. Here's a tiny bit to support your work. Please give me some more. Great. There's not a that sounds nice. Did you guys know that there was another Hellboy movie coming? I have talked about that in the news. Uh, I'm guessing it might be a pretty low budget affair compared to what we've seen before. They're filming in Bulgaria. That's a pretty inexpensive place to film. And they announced some of the cast this past week. I wouldn't say any of them are like big names. Not to speak about the quality of their acting at all. I'm just saying, are these A-list movie stars? Maybe not. This guy here, that's Jack Kesey. He played Black Tom Cassidy in Deadpool 2. Not a huge role, but he has been cast as Hellboy in the next live action movie. Deadline revealed that. They also revealed that somebody named Jefferson White, that's on the show Yellowstone, I take it that actually is super popular. He's going to play Tom Farrell. Adeline Rudolph was in the Resident Evil Netflix TV show. She will play Bobby Joe Song. So those are three cast members that they announced for the movie. It's going to be called The Crooked Man, and partially based on that. Script by Mike Mignola and Tom Sniegowski, I believe. No, Christopher Golden, right? Christopher Golden, excuse me. Anyway, guys that have written their fair share of stuff in the Hellboy universe. If you didn't read The Crooked Man, it's basically set in 1950s Appalachian Mountains. Hellboy and a rookie Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense agent. They get stranded in a small town. It's dealing with witches. It's got a town leader that has a connection to this really creepy being called the Crooked Man. It's a good story. It is a really good story. It's interesting that it's a small story and not blowing through all the big stuff like the last movie. Yeah, it's far from like an epic story going up against, armies and the devil himself or anything, but it's got smaller stakes, but people's lives are in danger. It's very creepy. It's like it's like an old fairy tale that's set out in the dark woods at night. It's a good comic. I hope this works well. I don't know. Yeah, apparently they're going to pass off Bulgaria as Appalachia. I don't know. I guess if you're in the woods, it doesn't really matter. We'll see. You can always get establishing shots of Appalachia, and then you just have a set built in the woods. Yeah, animated isn't a bad idea. I didn't even watch that Hellboy reboot with David Harbour because the reviews weren't kind, and I'll probably get around to seeing it someday out of curiosity, but it didn't really seem like it was a good use of my time. His face structure works well for Hellboy. Okay, that's fair. Does seem to have a prominent brow, so sure, maybe. Maybe. Yep, animated is the way to go. There is a Hellboy game in the works, right, folks? I think that there's a Hellboy game that has visuals that look very based on Mike Mignola art. I'm pretty sure. Seeing some different opinions on the last movie. There was that animated Amazing Screw-On Head. That looked awesome. So yeah, I think that Mike Mignola's art in animation can look fantastic. I'm sure that that is the goal. You know, they need to find out this balance of like, how much can we spend on a movie where we make it back because there is enough of an audience? You know, we're not overspending. I hope they figure it out. I hope they figure it out. Oh, Lance Reddick voicing Hellboy in the game. I like that idea. He has a really good voice. That is a really cool idea. I did not know that, but I like that idea a lot. Yeah. Um, yeah, just a pilot for that. I did not see the news about the massive Hellboy omnibus. Unfortunately, I missed that. But I probably would get it. I am a big Mignola fan. His art style is utterly unique. A Hellboy TV series that's X-Files and Twin Peaks mixed with Supernatural would be cool. Yeah, it might be too expensive to honestly accomplish Hellboy on a sort of weekly TV show basis. Maybe if it was, you know, Amazon Prime or HBO Max, like maybe, but like, you know, an 8-episode season, but I don't know. I don't see it on the CW. I'll say that. I don't see it on that. 1,500-page book. Ooh, that's a big omnibus. Ooh, that sounds good. Got more news. About halfway. Could Marvel get the rights to Hulk and Namor back? Well, let's talk about that a little. So first of all, just to set a baseline, obviously Marvel movies have had Hulk and Namor in them, but Marvel can only use them as supporting characters. If they wanted to make a movie starring Hulk or Namor, there is still a deal with Universal, and Universal has the right to distribute that movie and therefore get a bunch of the profits of it. Disney is not especially motivated to spend a humongous budget on a Hulk or Namor movie if they're not going to get all of the profits. You know, like they're barely willing to split profits on Spider-Man, and that makes billions. So that's why we haven't seen any individual Hulk movies since the very first one, as Marvel's MCU was starting. And then they were like, you know what, we're not going to do another standalone one. But there was an interview in The Wrap, that's like a Hollywood Insider trade publication, this past week with a Wall Street business analyst. His name is Jason Bazinet. He thinks that Disney could have a path to get those rights back this year. And it's not that crazy of an idea. He specifically explained that when Disney bought 20th Century Fox, one thing that they got with that was they became 67% owners of Hulu. But they now have Disney Plus, and they might not really have that much interest in taking over Hulu and being the bosses and stuff. Bazinet proposed that Comcast Universal, who owns like the minority shareholding on Hulu, might want Hulu, and therefore that maybe this year they could come up with a trade of some sort. There might be money involved on one side or the other, but where Comcast Universal gets the full rights to Hulu, and in exchange, Disney gets back the full rights to Hulk and Namor. And at least on paper, that doesn't sound like a bad deal to me. You know, business has changed since each of these initial contracts, and that might benefit both companies. I don't know. I've heard crazier things. I believe that there's some sort of a clause where this year, Disney, and it was like 20th Century Fox's obligation, but now it's Disney's, has to potentially buy all of Hulu to take it over or get out completely. That there's some sort of a deadline where they have to make a decision on that. So we'll see. You think Hulu seems like a lot to lose for just Hulk and Namor? I could almost argue the other way. I don't know that they need Hulu anymore, is all. Yes, just to be clear, Clay is right when he says pure speculation from one guy. Clay goes on to say Universal still has distribution right for Hulk. Yep, and Namor. Hulu is where the more adult Fox TBS shows produced go. They can't go on American Disney Plus. I don't know that they can't. I don't know that they can't. And even if they did uh, go on Hulu and Disney didn't own Hulu, they're still getting paid to license their shows to that platform. So, like, there's still good money involved, you know? There's still plenty involved. This would be a bad deal for Disney. Interesting. A lot of you guys seem to think that Hulu is very, very valuable. I didn't see it the same way. Not after they spent $72 billion on Fox Studios. I don't quite get which argument you're making there. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, Deadpool is on Disney Plus. There you go. That's an R-rated movie. They've got a couple R-rated movies on there, just to be clear. They do. It's not all kid-friendly. It's not all kid-friendly. Hulu is a much longer-term profit source than Hulk is. I think that there's a lot of questions about where streaming's going to end up. So maybe, maybe not. I don't know. A single hit Hulk movie could bring them in hundreds of millions in profits, whereas Hulu is gonna Hulu can possibly be operating at a small loss right now. I think. I don't know that it's making money, but anyway, it was just an interesting bit of speculation. It is speculation. I don't know. Who knows if the Hulk movie would bomb or not? Hulu has a lot of subscribers. They do. They do. All of streaming is a pretty massive money sink. Hulu is only available in America and Disney Plus is worldwide. I don't see the point in them holding on to a service that doesn't have room to really grow into new markets. That's what I was thinking. Thank you for helping me with that argument, Gray. Thank you. Appreciate that. That's one thing I was thinking. A proper World War Hulk or Planet Hulk, those could be big. I think that no matter what, Marvel will probably make one of those too. And you could argue that that maybe that is still like Hulk as a supporting character, depending on how you position it. That would be a stretch, I know, but maybe there is still a way. I'm not a business guy. In the short term, Hulk is faster profit, but think about what would happen if they made one Hulk movie a year. Well, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. I agree. Maybe we should have just said Hulu for North America, but I know that Hulu isn't in places like India or Japan and big markets like that, Brazil. With Kang here, a Maestro for Future Imperfect plan could work. Future Imperfect would be good. Yeah. Wow. That would be cool. I'd go ham for an Immortal Hulk show. Yeah. There is a Hulu in Japan. Interesting. I did not think that there was. Okay. Sounds like I am not an expert on Hulu, is what we're learning. That is what we're definitely learning. I'm going to move on to the next piece of news because obviously I didn't know enough about Hulu to have that conversation. So, if you've been following industry news, you would know that the Comic Book Workers Union is a union that was formed out of Image Comics employees. They have ratified their union. They announced these two bits of a statement this week. They said the Comic Book Workers Union is proud to announce that on March 1st, 2023, the workers of Image Comics voted overwhelmingly to ratify our first union contract. Now, what does that mean? Some of the union demands that they can now use to leverage against, Image. They are going to ask for salary and workplace transparency. That's fair. Monthly all hands meetings to involve all staff. Huh. I understand why they'd ask for that. That would make me a little nervous if I was the person sort of running the company, that like everybody gets to attend and have a say. I don't feel like that. I do feel like a group of people can come up with better ideas than just one or two. Um, Different opinions can be a good thing. But I don't know that I always want everybody to have an equal say. But who knows exactly how they'd lay that out. I'm just saying that that would be a small concern if I was going to play devil's advocate. They want the addition of staff to marketing and production departments so that they argue they can produce a better product. Again, that's very fair. I will say, as things stand now, I think that for creators, I think Image has the best deal in comics. You pay a flat fee of like $2,500, and all the profit goes to the creators. All the rights go to the creators. There's very little overhead to deal with. If you make Image bigger, there's going to be more overhead, and that dollar sign is going to go up. So that is a bit of a concern, maybe. Another thing they asked for, and this isn't all their demands, just to be clear, this is just a few. They want a plan to increase diversity. I think that that's totally reasonable. I think that Image can definitely take the time to outline a sustainable plan for hiring diversity. That's, I think, very reasonable. Anyway, it was interesting to see what this is, and I'll be curious to see what happens, if anything. All hands meetings at work don't really incorporate input from many people. Okay. People want to attend meetings? Some people do. They want to have the option. Yeah, it is a great deal. It is. Tobers is all for it. Nippon owns the majority of Hulu in Japan, and Disney doesn't support Hulu Japan in favor of Disney Plus. Okay, interesting. Let's see. Late arrival this week. Always count down the days. Well, I appreciate you being here. I think we're having fun talking about some of the news of the week. All staff must arm wrestle the Todd father twice a year. They're going to lose. Todd is strong. They're going to lose. That guy was nearly a professional baseball player. And if you see him, Todd is a healthy looking guy for his age. I would not want to arm wrestle him. I certainly could not with my bad arm. But we'll see what happens. Oh, Jim's here. Image is the best creator-owned deal around. It just is. It just is. Built off of a lot of hard work by a lot of creators, but they came up with something that works. And God bless the Image founders for expanding that opportunity to other people. Just amazing. Like, seriously, if you've been reading comics for, say, only 20 years or something, you might not know that like creators right now have so many better opportunities because of Image. Even if they don't go to Image, there are competing deals that I would argue aren't always quite as good, but are still pretty darn competitive and transparent and give people more rights than anything that was really done before. It is built on the backs of companies like, the 80s black and white indie stuff that we saw, an Eclipse or something like that. But those companies didn't necessarily last that long, and Image sustains. Baseball players generally have strong arms. That's all I was saying. It was good seeing you. Good seeing you, Jim. I hope you had a good convention there. I talked early on about how my biggest complaint about Emerald City Comic Con was there just wasn't enough comic book stuff. I want to see the publishers there. I want to see a bunch of big names. I want to see more people in Artist Alley, uh, like that make comics as compared to prints. And I want to see more vendors selling comic books on the main floor. That's what I wanted to see. If you're saying 12 members for the comic book union, I believe that that sounds like the right number. It is not a ton of people. It's close to whatever the minimum required is. I actually know what. Let me take that back. A minimum for a union might be as small as like 3 people or something. I forget now. It's a small group. I totally agree with you. All the comics people felt the same way. Oh, okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Like some other people felt that way. Very impressive convention center. Impressive attendance. The cosplay was fantastic. The people that were there were great. They really were. I just would love to see more of a focus on comics. And yeah, I hope that the convention center isn't being too greedy with what they're charging people for vending space. Image became my vertigo in publishing just all types of stories. Yeah. You know what? Let's give Jim Valentino a bunch of that credit. He really did expand what kind of books Image would publish. And Eric Larson built that. And Eric Stevenson is doing a fantastic job of curating what Image is. But, some really great people. Glad you got home safe. Let's see. What Golden Age publisher do you wish never faded away? A Golden Age publisher that I wish never faded away. You know what would probably have helped everybody? A company like Dell, because they made a lot of comics for young readers. They did like all the Disney stuff. I bet if Dell was still around, we might still have more of a focus on younger readers and bringing them up, and then they sort of transition as a teenager to superhero stuff, and then they transition from there into all the various different genres and experimental stuff that you can do with comics. Yeah, Gold Key Dell. Oh, Fawcett, sure. If Fawcett could have been strong, they had a fantastic character with Captain Marvel, and I bet that they would have done a lot more if they were financially stronger. Yeah. Just read Do a Powerbomb on your recommend the twist. There's several twists, but yes. Great comic. Great comic. See a bunch of people saying EC Comics. I don't really think of them as a golden age publisher. That's why I didn't mention EC. I guess you could see them as golden age. Yeah, I mean they were publishing during the 40s and 50s, and the Silver Age is more the 60s. So I guess that is correct. I was honestly thinking more of publishers that were starting all at the same time. Your Timely, your National, and stuff. But yeah, actually that is fair. EC Comics is fair. I just wasn't thinking of them right away. Chris, what Silver Age publisher do you wish weren't effectively abolished by an act of Congress? Well, come on, EC Comics, right? Any other Silver Age stuff? I don't know. It would have been nice also if, well, I was about to say Charlton, but honestly, Charlton gave us some good stuff, but it was kind of cheap, and it was more just like an outlet for guys like somebody like Steve Ditko to work when he wasn't feeling like working with Marvel. So I don't know. Let's move on. I got to highlight a creator when you see some really interesting, rapid success, because of course, nobody really becomes popular overnight. They've been putting in hard work behind the scenes, but from the outsider's perspective, all of a sudden they get noticed. That's what I'm seeing with this guy named Danny Earls. And I think he really got noticed by sort of a mainstream comics audience just a couple months ago. January 4th, Gail Simone tweeted a bunch of his work and talked about how she'd seen his portfolio at a convention over in England, and she just really loved his work. A few days later, Danny Earls was sharing his work, including this piece, which was commissioned by Kyle Higgins for his comic No One. and he was sharing that for Portfolio Day. A lot of people took notice of his beautiful work. By February 22nd, he tweeted that he was doing a short story for Marvel. And then just a couple days ago, February 28th, he tweeted that he's working for DC as well. So that's pretty amazing to see somebody go from sort of sharing portfolio work to just 2 months later working for some of the bigger publishers. And this guy's interesting. If you look at his history, he actually used to be for a while a professional footballer. Yeah, he's an Irish guy that was for a little while. He played a little bit of the old footy, soccer, as we call it. But I just thought that was an interesting and exciting story. Maybe he got noticed and got these opportunities very recently, but you have to imagine, no matter what, he's probably been hustling for a while, trying to make those connections and get seen and get noticed. And he's certainly been working on his artwork for a while to get to such a polished place. So it seems like it's overnight, but it's just a nice story. Yeah. Impressive work. Yes. Also a professional soccer player. Yes. It looks like Danny Earls is having an early success. Let's hope so. Nice job, Danny. I really like so much of this black and white piece. It's just really, really nice. What's this? Just realized that Chris might be the only comics artist to have been an actual costumed hero. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I'm the only guy crazy enough to have gone out there in a suit and gotten into fights with drunks. Maybe. Anyway. Years of hard work behind his rapid rise, no doubt. That's what I'm thinking, but it's just a short story based on like his most recent tweet, February 28th. I started going, I feel like I only heard about this guy pretty recently and like just put together that like little bit of history. It was nice. One of the Arrowverse producers seems pretty disappointed in the time that he spent for over 9 years on it. And he is a comic book writer as well. Mark Guggenheim. He's written a bunch of comics. He was a writer and executive producer on all those various Arrowverse shows from the beginning, about 10 years. I'm only hearing about this now, but he's got a newsletter called Legal Dispatch. On February 3rd, he explained that he was disappointed that he wasn't even invited to have a meeting about the new DCU stuff that Safran and Gunn announced. He was saying that, not that he expected to get a job or anything. It's just that, he did work for like 10 years on interconnected DC stuff, and he would have liked to have at least had a meeting, at least hear what's happening. And I can understand that. I feel for this guy. I interviewed him back on my podcast in the day. He was a really nice guy. I think he is a creative and talented individual. It sounds like he's really, really upset about this, like really hurt, I would say, is what I get from it. That's how I interpreted it. I pulled 2 quotes from his newsletter here that I want to share with you. This is a quote from Mark Guggenheim. Although working for DC had been creatively fulfilling, it involved a lot of adversity, challenges, and personal sacrifices, none of which seemed to have accrued to any professional benefit. Simply put, the Arrowverse hasn't led to any other gigs, so it feels, at least on a career level, that I really wasted my time. Ouch! That is painful. That is painful to hear. Let's listen to this next quote. I spent every ounce of capital I'd amassed in developing DC Comics related show for Warner Brothers over an 8-year period. I called in every favor. I used every chit. I burned every bridge. I even spent $10,000 of my own money. Yeah, I thought that for a CW TV show that their Crisis on Infinite Earth crossover was very, very fun. I really did. I love that they incorporated all sorts of live action superheroes and characters. They worked in Lucifer and Swamp Thing and Doom Patrol and Teen Titans. Some of those just cameos from footage, but they got Burt Ward from the 60s Batman show. They got the voice of the Batman animated series to play sort of a Kingdom Come Bruce Wayne. They got one of the actors from the Batman 1989 movie to play his role again. Arliss himself. They had Huntress from the short-lived Birds of Prey show. They had the movie Flash Meet the TV Flash. They did a lot of cool stuff. They did. They had Brandon Routh play Superman again. They did some really good stuff. So I could sort of understand, and by the way, that sort of represented a high point after, in my opinion, the shows had kind of dipped by that point. I don't think that the ongoing weekly episodes were that great, but I think that they did a lot of fun stuff with Crisis. It was really cool that they did so much. It was very, very cool. There were some good seasons. I think the first season of Flash, very good show. It really is. I think the second season of Arrow is pretty fantastic. But they probably all did go on a little too long. It hurts me. Oh yeah, exactly. Right. They brought back Smallville, Clark Kent, and Lois Lane. They kept a whole generation of Vancouver actors employed. Exactly. It's sad that he feels this hurt. It is. Maybe he did deserve at least a meeting. He's written a bunch of comics. He probably should have been included in the conversation. Anyway, I thought it was worth sharing. I don't love where the CW shows ended up, but I do respect what they attempted to do on some pretty modest budgets. I do think that they cast the shows very well. I think that occasionally they had some great directors step in. Like there were some great fight sequences. I remember there's this one guy, James Bamford. He started as a stunt coordinator on Arrow and eventually got an opportunity to direct. And anytime James Bamford directed an episode of the show, you could count on at least one outstanding fight sequence in the show. Something really special. Anyway. Whoops. You saw my Barry Windsor Smith episode. It was great. Just wish you'd give spoiler alerts. Well, I mean, I did say that I was talking about a comic that was like about 30 years old. I mean, there's sometimes if you're going to do analysis, I don't think it's unfair to do analysis of a comic from that long ago and give some things away. By the way, something flattering that happened today. When I do these episodes, I do them for myself and I do them for you. I don't do them with the thought of the creators in mind. I can't think like that because then I'd just be too scared to do them. But today, Barry Windsor Smith shared the video to his Facebook page and asked to be like friends on Facebook. That was very flattering. So I'm glad he seems to have appreciated it on whatever level that is. I'm sorry that you felt I spoiled something. If I'm talking about a comic that's, 20 years old or more, I'm not going to worry as much about spoilers. And I think it's fair to talk about it in, anytime I'm doing an analysis, and sometimes I have to talk about that all the way through to the end. And I think that it's a fair time. Like if I was talking about when I do like my quick reviews of these books, like my quick recaps of like whatever came out weekly, you'll note I usually stop from like showing the last few pages because I'm not trying to give things away as a spoiler that just came out. But I should have given a spoiler warning. Well, different people are going to have different opinions there. I think it's fair what I did. I think it's fair. Let's move on. You guys know I like Radiant Black. I just talked about how I loved issue 22. Well, there's a new event coming up that writer Kyle Higgins announced. He did it in a cool video that Image promoted. The story's going to start in issue 25. And we're finally going to learn about Catalyst, which is the alien robot empire that has a connection or maybe powers the various Radiant characters: Radiant Black, Radiant Pink, Radiant Red, Radiant Yellow. That's cool. And I thought I'd bring this up also because I saw on Twitter, again, that's not always indicative of how everybody thinks, but a lot of people were like, oh no, an event, can you please keep it all in like, just one book and no crossovers? And just to be clear, the massive verse books don't do crossovers. They have a bunch of spin-offs. They're set in a shared world, but if they do a story where they're like working together, they publish that as a book like Supermassive. Catalyst War is going to be 100% just a storyline that's happening in Radiant Black. I don't think this is talking out of turn. I said I had lunch with Kyle Higgins at the Comic-Con, and he was talking about like how, it's interesting how some people like have that assumption that all of these books are crossing over. And I was like, yeah, I know you've never said that they do. So it's interesting that they have that assumption, but they do have that assumption. I go, and he goes, I've made it like a point to try not to like have the characters show up in each other's books. And I go, well, I'll push back a little there. I go, I think a guest appearance is different than a crossover. In other words, if you wanted to have Rogue Sun show up for an issue of Radiant Black, that's fine as long as it isn't a crossover where you have to read the other book to get the other half of that story. Maybe they've already thought that through. I was just saying that was my argument. But I like Radiant Black. Let's see. I have Radiant Black, but I don't have any of those tie-ins. Should I be spreading out and getting those? Are they any good? They're all by different creators. So how much you're going to enjoy them is going to depend on how much you like each of them. While it is a shared world, you do not need to read any other book. You can read just that one book that you're interested in. Oh yeah, let's go ahead. Jim says, a little plug. I did a variant cover for Radiant Black number 24. Yes, I got to see that artwork in your portfolio there at the convention, and it looks great. I hope I can pick that one up. Did you ask Kyle how the color black can radiate? No. But don't black holes exhibit radiant energy? I thought that they did. I don't know. Oh, good. Yeah, I'm glad you were able to take advantage of that deal, Steve. Yeah. I don't know if it's still going, but for at least a month, Barnes and Nobles had a thing in their graphic novel section. If you bought one Image graphic novel, you'd get a second one free. It was a fantastic deal. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it. Hawking radiation? I don't know this stuff. Guys, I can barely run this stream smoothly. I definitely don't know I definitely don't know physics very well. Although my grandfather was a brilliant nuclear physicist. He did work on the Manhattan Project. He worked on helping to create the first computer, UNIVAC. Really, really brilliant guy. But that's not me. Oh, I know it doesn't really have any issues. I'm just playing. But people are you guys are smart. Black holes spit out Hawking radiation, which is a pretty unique stuff. Well, maybe that's what powers the radiance. I don't know. I just wanted to point out that if you were intimidated because you've seen that there's some interconnected books on the shelves, well, while it's a shared universe, that's mostly on a technical level. You only need to read the individual comic to get the full, complete story, which is nice. What might have been? On Twitter, industry insider Jeff Snyder, he posts all sorts of insider scoops about Hollywood stuff, especially related to comic books. He revealed that Walter Hamada, he used to be the DC Films president, he had hired Daniel Casey, the writer of the Fast and Furious 9 movie, everybody's favorite one. I don't know. I'm just playing. He had hired him to write a script for an animated Batman Beyond project, which, according to Snyder, would have been DC's answer to Into the Spider-Verse. I almost said Into the Snyderverse. There are a lot of fans that would like that. Into the Snyderverse, into the Zack Snyderverse. But when Hamada exited and then Peter Safran and James Gunn came on and, took over DC Studios, the status is now unknown. But an animated standalone Batman Beyond movie sounds like it would be a success to me. Sounds like it would be a success to me. My grandfather was Dr. Manhattan. Out of all the other 100 Fast and Furious movies, 9 is especially a favorite. Hey, there have only been, so far, 9 Fast and Furious movies plus Hobbs and Shaw, with Fast 10 coming out this summer. And I've seen them all. They're good. They're fun. My grandfather only worked on Apollo 1. What an idiot. I'm just kidding. That's amazing. What an amazing piece of history. Congrats. My grandfather was in Operation Baker and Abel. I don't know that operation. I feel dumb now. Sounds like something World War II-y. I don't know. Gray says, my great-grandfather worked on the Manhattan Project too. I wonder if they knew each other. Possibly. There were a lot of people that worked on it, to be clear. Let's see. A live-action Batman Beyond film would be cool. It would. This idea was for an animated version. Not like an extra thing from the show, but like just sort of like a new Batman Beyond idea. And I do think that could work. I still think that could work. But I also agree that a live action one could also work. Batman Beyond is a good property. My grandfather was a bricklayer. Well, he probably gave shelter to a lot of people. That's amazing. That's super. That's awesome. My grandfather was a preacher, but I had cousins and uncles who fought in both world wars. Well, respect to them all. I hope your father gave comfort to a lot of people. Grandfather, yeah. My grandfather sold candy bars. Was your grandfather Willy Wonka? Because I've heard about that guy. My grandfather brought the first kiwi fruit to Newfoundland. I don't know if that's true or not. My grandfather's a rock. Good one, Damon. Good one. I am my grandfather. Oh, my God. My grandfather played piano in silent movie theaters. Chrissy and I once went to see Manhattan in, the silent movie in a movie theater with a full orchestra. It was an awesome experience. It was awesome. Let's see. My grandfather also worked on the Manhattan Project and for Howard Hughes. You sound familiar. Are you my sister? My grandfather was a plumber who drove trucks in World War II and almost got shot in the head by a Panzer tank round. Wow. My grandfather was a plumber who went into the Mushroom Kingdom. He did not. You guys have some great grandfathers, and also some grandfathers who are great. This is awesome. I'm glad you guys are, so many of you are like proud of your family. This is kind of beautiful. It really is. My grandfather only worked at a bookies. It was confusing because he never sat behind the desk and lost money instead of taking it home. That is confusing, but it sounds like it would make a heck of a story. I've been saying for years they should have a live action Batman Beyond with Keaton as the old Bruce. I think a lot of people would enjoy something like that, no question. Plays harmonica in a blues band? That's great. A postmaster and a milkman. Ooh. George Santos is my grandfather. He just told me. All right, now you guys are getting dead. My grandfather was yes. The grandfather that Gene and I are talking about was from New Zealand. He was born in New Zealand. I hope you and I can get to go there sometime, Gene. If you ever think you can take some vacation time, let me know, because I would love to go to New Zealand with you. I think that we'd have a good time. My grandfather had pictures of Spider-Man. All right. All right. I can't. There's too many now. Like I'm overwhelmed that so many of you are proud of your grandfathers and what they did, or that they had interesting stories. That's really, really amazing. That's really amazing. I'm going to move on to some more news because we've only got so much time together. Marvel Comics has created a new imprint. Here's a visual example of that. And if you look up here, that says 20th Century Studios. If we scroll down, like Marvel is this tiny little thing down here. But it sort of makes sense. They're going to launch this in April. So this is just around the corner. Because they have several 20th century properties that they're making comics. So I guess it makes a little bit of sense to sort of brand it like this. Planet of the Apes, they're starting. Alien and Predator will also have new #1 issues, and they're all going to have this branding. Yeah, I think that that's interesting. Oops, did I miss a super chat? I did. Hold on. Steve, Fast and Furious went from stealing DVD players, and then became secret agents, which is almost like comic book logic. Almost is. You should star in a Fast and Furious movie. I agree. I should. I would probably be the guy that died in the first one, or something like that. I'm the tech expert that just randomly gets shot, and then they're all like, "No, not Chris. He was basically family. Let's get revenge." And then they like run over my body. There's family. The other day I tried to do a Vin Diesel voice. He talks so deep, and I did it so deep, like I instantly started coughing. Let's see if I'm gonna go for it. All right, I'm gonna try to do a Vin Diesel voice. All I've got is family. Family is all that matters. I can't do it. All I care about is family. I live my life a quarter mile at a time. Oh, that's hard. It's a perfect impression, but it's not easy to do. Oh. Whew. All right. That was, yep. Bet you didn't know that, Chrissy. Happy anniversary, sweetheart. You married a Vin Diesel impersonator. I am Groot. Okay. We'll go back to the news. Where'd Chris go? Yeah. We'll see what other news there is. There's a few more pieces. Okay. So last week was the Comics Pro distributor convention. Some retailers were there. Diamond had a presentation where they announced that they could cut their costs by 40%. And people were like, wait a minute. If you can cut your costs by 40%, have you been ripping us off this whole time? Or are you about to go out of business and this is bullshit? Like what does this mean? Thank you, Steve, in Vin Diesel voice. Comic troopers are family, Chris. Perfect impression. Welcome to... What's that one Italian restaurant? I can't even think of it right now, but we'll just call it Italian restaurant. When you're your family. All right. So I was able to like listen to the presentation that was given by the Jeppy Family Enterprises Chief of Sales and Service Officer, Chris Powell. And he explained how Diamond is going to cut the shipping fees. I've got 3 quotes here, and we'll see if this makes sense, if this works. He goes, one example is our recent acquisition of CGA, one of the premier grading companies in several industries, which allowed us to add more residential shipping volume to our contracts with various freight companies. So in other words, like because they sort of acquired a second company that also did a lot of big freight shipping, I guess they were able to negotiate better deals for shipping, is the argument here. I'm interpreting that, but I think I have that right. Here's another quote. Oh, my voice is shot. In recent months, a number of the Jeppy Family Enterprises companies have moved into shared workspaces that used to be only occupied by Diamond, and we will be reducing our space by 60%. So they're saying they're cutting their overhead by moving the different companies all into sort of like one building, cutting it by 60%. I hope things aren't too tight for the employees that are still there. Here's one last quote that I think sounds relevant. In April, we will reduce UPS charges on print goods by approximately 20%, with an additional 20% reduction in July. And he said they did this by just renegotiating their contracts. That means a box that currently costs $50 to ship to a retailer will be reduced to around $30, a significant savings. Look, I hope for the comic book stores out there that this is 100% true, because if so, I love the idea of them getting some savings on getting certain comics to them. 40% that just sounds massive, but maybe. Olive Garden, that was the place. Olive Garden when you have your family. Let's see. Honestly, Diamond nailed retailers on shipping at the same time. They also destroyed their margins, so seeking some give back is nice. Diamond also helped the comic book stores during the pandemic by, sort of playing a middleman on collecting on debts and stuff like that. So they're doing some good stuff too, just to be clear. They're doing some good stuff too. Anyway, also sounds like they're going to fire a bunch of people soon. I haven't heard anything about that. I hope not. I know someone that works there, and I want him to be secure in his job. I think he genuinely, legit loves and cares about comics. So, if we take it at face value, I think that there is nothing bad to say about this if this is accurate. If we can take this at face value, that is a good thing for comic book retailers. It's good. I don't know. We will obviously see, because this is stuff that they're saying is going to be implemented by the summer. I hope it's true. I'll definitely be talking to retailers and seeing if this happens. I hope it happens. I hope it happens. What they're saying makes sense, renegotiating contracts and using economies of scale with their different companies, looking to save money by doing smart things like just putting people in one space instead of multiple spaces. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. In other words, the retailer discount or cost wasn't nearly as ideal as it had been, and certainly much less with Diamond than other distributors. I help a local comic store, and this will be big for them. Yeah, well, we will see. We will see. Where'd the image just go? There we go. Here's the next piece of news. So I've talked before about when comic stores were robbed, and this was one that I had reported on. There is a little bit of follow-up to this. Not that the people are caught, but there's something positive towards getting them caught. So there's a guy named Dave Schwartz, and he was assaulted by 2 men. The 2 men that you can see, I've shown that like security camera footage here. Dave Schwartz works at Comic Collection in a town called Feasterville, Philadelphia. He was assaulted by these two men in September. They stole about $16,000 worth of merchandise. To recap the story, if you remember listening to my show back in September, what they'd done was they'd asked him to get up on a ladder to get some piece of merchandise up high, I think a wall comic. And as soon as he started going up the ladder, they knocked him off of that and kicked him and beat him. He got hurt pretty bad. But this is the heartwarming part. The customers of the comic store have, between them, they raised $1,000 as reward money for any information that leads to an arrest. If anybody hearing this does get some information that leads to the arrest, you can pass that on to the Lower Southampton Police, again in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia area, I should say. So we'll see. We'll see. I hate hearing about a comic store robbed. I hate hearing about anybody getting hurt. I love that the community came together and pooled some money to help put some reward money out there. I think that's a really beautiful thing, that their customers cared that much. I hope they catch them too. And I'm just showing the best sort of like security cam pictures that I could find. This guy was originally wearing a black hoodie. He took that off when he was on the run, and like another security camera caught this. This guy was wearing a reddish Deadpool shirt. Both of them were wearing a mask when they were in the store. This is the most I could see of him, like while he's adjusting his mask. So anyway, thank you for the super chat, Andrew. Did Omega use the Vin Diesel voice to hide his identity? No. Were there rumors Vin Diesel was a superhero back in the day? I don't think so. In fact, just to be clear, while I did wear a mask that covered my face, if I was talking to somebody that was like, I talked to some people that were like lost and looking for people. I talked to the police several times to like give a report. I took my mask off so that like they could look me in the eyes, see that I was a real person. I didn't want to be a creep. Yeah, a Rolling Rock shirt. Maybe someone will recognize him. Maybe. Look, it's not like this show has the biggest reach in the world, but it might reach out to somebody that hears about some stolen comic merchandise showing up in that area. So you never know. Yeah, sort of. I've got an episode on Comic Tropes about it. I patrolled the streets of Seattle at night with Phoenix Jones for about a year. It was a pretty weird time in my life. Pretty weird time. Anyway, you've got a bit of a look at these doofuses. I'm going to move on. Two more pieces of news that I've got for you. One, manga sales are up 9%. Nobody's surprised by that, I don't think. But let's put it into a little bit of context. This 9% comes from the website ICV2, and they do a lot of analysis on sales trends within comics. They gather stuff from like BookScan and for Comic Hub and all sorts of stuff like that, and they put together hard numbers and analysis, put things in context. They do a lot of great work if you're curious about that side of things. So they've got this latest analysis, and 9% is already fantastic, right? Like 9% in 2022 over 2021. But listen to this in even more context. This follows in 2020, manga sales were up 30% over 2019. And in 2021, they were up 134%. So not only did they not go down from where they were jumping up 30% and then 134%, they didn't like slow down to like a previous level. They still increased another 9%. Manga is selling insanely well here in the US. On top of that, sure, manga sells at places like Barnes & Noble, Amazon. What about comic book stores? This is encouraging, actually. We want our comic stores healthy. Manga sales in comic stores, which is a smaller channel for manga than the book channel, it grew faster in 2022, 12.5% bigger in comic book stores versus 8.9% in just bookstores. Wow. Yes, Mango. I even talked about it the week it came out on this show. It was really really cool. The market for manga must be huge. I talked to several people at Emerald City Comic Con, and I told them it's not necessarily just the storytelling of manga that appeals to people. It's not necessarily just the price. It's I think a piece of it is these stories have usually been coming out in Japan for a while, coming out weekly and stuff like that. And then they get collected, the ones that are the best, they get collected into those Tankobon volumes. They come over here to the US, and sometimes they'll come out like several volumes at once, or if not, like still like a volume every couple of months. What it allows you to do is basically binge a story. And because it's printed in black and white and smaller dimensions, the costs on it are a little less than the traditional sort of floppy comic. I can get all these pages for $10 versus this comic that has that many pages for $5. Now, does that look like this is half of this? No, this is like, maybe 10%. But here's the thing. Why couldn't an American comic collect a bunch of pages like this, put it in black and white, and I would argue take the time to do this production the right way? Don't just print the colors in grayscale. Don't just print the black and white art. Go back in and add like screen tones and stuff. Hire somebody to do that. But how much fun would it be to binge a huge, great, like all of Superior Spider-Man or something like that? I'm just coming up with an arc, or binge the entire New 52 Batman like this. I think that would still appeal to readers. I really do. If you could get a huge Batman story, keep in mind, a really successful manga is still only going to go between maybe 20 to 30 of these volumes. That's a pretty typical run. You could definitely get that kind of a run together, like a top level, get Immortal Hulk collected like this. I think it would still sell to people. I really do. I think people like that you can binge it. I think people like that it's affordable. And I think that they like this size. I could legit just put this in my pocket here. That is just in my pocket. That is a convenient way to carry this around. Trade paperbacks already sell very, very well. I think American comics should try this and see. Now, it's not trying to trick them into thinking it's manga. You'd still be reading it right, left to right instead of right to left. I'm not talking about flipping it. I'm not trying to say that like it's manga, but legit, why not try to put it in these dimensions, a really nice high-end black and white presentation of a long arc so that people could binge it? Am I crazy, or does that sound like something that's at least worth trying on a big scale? Been looking at the collected works for The Flash. Didn't Marvel used to print black and white archives? They did. All they did was just black and white, no gray tones or anything. But it was cheap. It was cheap and affordable. It'd be awesome. Comics need more trade paperbacks. I don't know. I think it's a good idea. Agreed. Even a colored version would be an interesting experiment. It would, but Scott Pilgrim, yeah, that did well. That was a black and white, like published like this, and that did do very well. I'm saying you've got the advantage of, I think that people do like binging it. I really do. Yeah, the Essential line was really awesome. I agree. The Essential line was Marvel's black and white line. Trade paperbacks all the way. People like reading a full story. You're not crazy. The world is. I had tried to push IDW to do the black and white screen toned on my Transformers trades, but all they did was print them in grayscale, which I did not like. Right. I don't want them to do that. I don't. In fact, I think that would potentially sour the reading experience for people and put them off trying future um, uh, American projects like that. I'm saying, hold on, let me do one thing here. If we look at how a manga does colors, they do a lot of different shades of gray, but they also do them with texture. And maybe this isn't the easiest way. Maybe over here is better. Hold on. Let me add this. And I'm just grabbing a random book, which happens to be My Hero Academia. But there's texture there. That's more than just like taking rendered colors and putting on a black and white filter in Photoshop. This is using screen tones so that there's like an actual texture. It's not just different types of gray. And then like even here, I don't know if this was done digitally or with a knife, but they're doing stuff like, and it gives it a depth. It really gives it a depth. I think that the original Ninja Turtles comics were sort of stood out because even though they were indie and stuff, they still did use a bunch of screen tone. They did. What other? I've got a bunch of different ones here. So like, here's a different modern one, and it's not just gray. You know, it's gradient gray, but it's toned gray. And I think that there's some really nice stuff to see there. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This isn't just gray on his face. These are like lines from paper that they put on, like a screen tone paper. These backgrounds are patterns. Anyway, lots of different examples. I think that American comics could try it. I really do. That's my opinion. Oh, some super chats. Wow. When are you making the Manga Tropes channel? I think I can cover manga on Comic Tropes, actually. But thank you. I all comics to me. IDW won't reprint TMNT Volume 4. There are some that they, rights issues. So, yeah. American black and white comics need to come back bigly. It's not like comics and manga have never mixed either. They have a couple of Batman manga stories coming out in the West translated. Right. Well, let me get to the last news story. This book that I was talking up the whole time it was coming out. I like crime comics. I think this was a very well executed one, The Good Asian. And I'm all for adaptations of material if it helps spread the word and gets more eyeballs on those comics. Well, The Good Asian is going to be adapted into a TV version, or at least it's in the process. So this book was by writer Pornsak Pichotshot and artist Alexander Tefenki. James Wan is basically producing this. His production company is producing a TV version of this. James Wan, just to be clear, like he is very successful because he turned Aquaman into $1 billion success. He did the Saw movies. He did a bunch of other like lower budget horror stuff that like turns a huge profit. And he did he directed at least one of he directed I want to say Fast and Furious 8, I think is the one he directed. Very successful guy. I'll recap the idea of The Good Asian. This is basically taken bits from Image Comics synopsis, but it's a noir story. It follows this guy, Edison Hark. He's a haunted, self-loathing Chinese-American detective on the trail of a killer in 1936 Chinatown. So this focuses on the first generation of Americans to grow up under a ban on Chinese immigration. And they dealt with things like murders, abuse of police, a change-averse world. I thought it was a great mystery book, and it had some good depth to it, and I'm excited to see that uh, go into something else. Oh, that's frustrating to jump back to that. That you volunteered to do the screen tones on the book yourself. I thought you did excellent screen tones on that uh, Tech Jacket edition you did in black and white. That was great. You and Kirkman did Tech Jacket in black and white, and I thought that was beautiful. Um, I think that we need some big names, like we need American, Deadpool, Wolverine, Batman, Nightwing. We need that kind of stuff turned into this so that people can give it a shot and like learn that American comics could present it in a really good way too. Oh, sorry. IDW has the right to volume 4 but still won't reprint. I'd have to see which issues are in there then. I don't know what's going on with that, dude face. Sorry. Looks super sick on a shelf room. The spines are beautiful. Good. Good. It's a good comic, folks. If you haven't read it, I really do recommend it. Covers by Dave Johnson. Gorgeous. He's really good at crime stuff too. So, yeah, hopefully that turns into a good adaptation. There's a lot to say beyond. What's good about it is it works on several different levels. Great noir atmosphere thanks to the art. Great mystery at its core, and a great character, but also the setting itself is a really interesting point in American history. Not one that we're necessarily proud of at all, to be honest, but it's interesting, Oh, I think you're totally right, EJ. I think that a bunch of publishers are scared to do it because they haven't done it yet. And I understand that a little bit, but I just look at this presentation and I go, why is it popular? Is it just the material? I go, no, the material here is good, but I'm also not going to say that like Chainsaw Man is necessarily better than, I don't know, Human Target. I'm not going to say like these are different audiences, so it's not one to one, but there is stuff aimed at this audience too that even the big publishers are doing that is good. And I think that like what's easy about this is it's so easy to like just look and go like, okay, I've read issues or volumes 1 through 4. I just need to pick up 5. Good branding, a good price point, easily digestible. Like you can binge a story. That's what I think makes some of this popular. Some of it, not just the story, not just the art, not just the art. I love it when good comics get adapted to TV. I do too. Sometimes I like the adaptation. I think that The Boys is a better TV show than a comic, to be honest. But I also like when something is adapted and it gets more eyeballs. I'm glad that Invincible did well on Amazon so that more people went and picked up the Invincible trade paperbacks and omnibuses. I'm glad. That makes me happy. Well, that's everything I had to do with one step. Everybody that's here, I've got an opportunity for you. I need to open up a new window. So give me a moment to type something here, but we're going to have a giveaway in a moment. One of you is going to win this because, again, I am promoting my Vampirella cover, and I hope you'll go to Indiegogo.com, look up Comic Tropes, and consider getting one of my covers. But Dynamite sent me some stuff, and I want to give this away to one of you tonight. I'll tell you how in just a moment. Let me open up a window, but somebody is going to win a really cool statue designed on the famous artwork by Jose Gonzalez. Give me a moment to get something up here. This will be fun. I promise. Beep, beep. Just opening up a tool. There we go. Yes. What I will do soon is I'm going to give you a hashtag. I'll show it on the screen, and you guys just type this once, because if you do it more than once, I think it actually eliminates you from the drawing. But you're going to like type that hashtag if you would like to win this, and I will do a random drawing. StreamYard gives me a tool that allows me to do that so that it's fair. So I'm opening that up and setting it up for this right now, and that's what we'll close the show out with. Hopefully you win. Obviously, there's over 160 people here, so not everybody can win, and some people will be watching this when it is archived. Sorry, this is some of the advantage of doing it live. We're going to call this hashtag... Give me a minute. I'm trying to think of something fun. Yeah, that's a cat back there. I almost want to make the hashtag something about my cats, but that's not appropriate. Okay, I got it. Give me a sec. I will show you that. Hi, cat. Do you want to be on stream? You can be on the stream here. Come here. Just type hashtag Vampy. Go ahead and try to be sure that you get it with the capital V. Now that I think of it, and it's going to start collecting entries. Okay, and there'll be a little bit of a delay, but I'm going to give you guys time to get that in there, and then I'm going to do a drawing, and one of you will get this sincerely amazing Vampirella statue. This is a very famous piece of artwork by Jose Gonzalez, and they've turned it into a three-dimensional statue. Good. I'm seeing a lot of entries here. Let me see how that's going on the... Hi. Hi. You want to say hello? We've got Kitty. We've got a kitty here. We had one to open. Now we have one to close. It's going up fast, the number of entries. Good, good, good. Glad so many people want it. Hi. You're a sweetie. Is it time for food? It's time for food. It's time for me to eat food too. Look at that. Yeah, I don't know if... I don't think that this is the black and white edition, but I guess I don't know for sure, to be honest. They sent me a couple, so I don't know. I'll see. Let's see how many entries we're up to. We're up to 54. That's great. I'll just give it another few minutes because obviously a couple people are working on that. Again, if you type it more than once, it may disqualify you guys. I said just put it in once, but anyway. I'm pretty sure don't worry too much. I'm pretty sure that StreamYard has figured out how to make their tool work minus like capitalizations and multiple entries. But anyway, typing it more than once does definitely not, I know for a fact, it does not give you more entries. So don't bother trying to sort of cheat. No, this isn't the manga version. It was just based on a pretty famous comics cover. Pretty famous comics cover. Has everybody had an opportunity to get it in? We've been going for a little while. So let's double check on where the entries are. Yeah. Because I got to call it at a certain point. Keep it. Looks like it hasn't added any more in a minute. So I guess we're good. I think we're good, folks. Let's go ahead and draw. Good luck to everybody involved. Okay. I'm sort of, every time I see it go up by a little bit, I'm giving it like a little bit of artificial time just to make sure that like there was no lag that like missed something. So bear with me as I'm just waiting for it to stop. Okay. I think we're good. I think we are good to go. So hold on. I accidentally just opened another window. Okay. Where is it? There it is. Here we go. Look flying by. Look at all those names. I think that's everybody. Okay, somebody named Art of Saw. Congratulations. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to email me your address. So, Art of Saw, what I want you to do is I'm going to type out the email address and show it on screen. Just give me a moment. Art of Shaw, if you could email comictropes@gmail.com, tell me what your mailing address is. Everybody congratulate Art of Saw. You got a pretty cool prize here, I think. So I think that that's pretty nice. Hopefully that's fun for everybody. Yeah, Kevin Street, you're right. There was a Vampirella movie. It starred the girl that was the actress who was Katana in Mortal Kombat. I forget her name. All right. Well, anyway, yes, congratulations. So, Art of Saw, email me your address, and we will go there. No, I don't think Nick's here tonight. He's a busy guy. Good. I'm glad that you like it. Thank you. Good. So I think that'll do it. I got myself a new keychain today. So tell you what, before I go, I'm going to show you guys what my old keychain looked like. I think this is kind of funny as all. Ow, hold on. I just hurt my rotator cuff quite a bit. Just not that the statue's even that heavy, but just literally like lifting it and pivoting it, that just like sent agony through my arm. I'm just trying not to swear. Thank you very much for the super chat, Joshua. That's very kind of you. That's very, very kind of you. This was my keychain that I had for ages. And he has seen better days. He at one point lost a whole arm with hand, and I replaced that. But then he lost his hand again. He lost a leg recently. Obviously, the paint's worn off. But this guy has served me very, very well. It was time to get a new keychain. Lego Hot Dog Man, we salute you. There's just a little Vampirella I sketched on a live stream I did on Comic Tropes just a couple days ago. But anyway, let's see. Chris, better see an orthodoc and therapist for the rotator cuff. I did go to physical therapy for like 2 months plus, and the thing, it's good to feel better. So I stopped doing my exercises, but now I'm just in agony. I'm just in agony. Yeah, only one salute for his service, but here's what I'll do for all of you. I'm going to give you a double salute to sign off. Double salute. In fact, yep, that's as much as I can do. Thank you very much for being here. That was a fun show. We will be back next week. I am working still on the next Comic Tropes. Obviously, it did not come out this weekend. I am covering the Spider-Man Broadway musical. There is a lot to talk about and a lot of weird stuff to have to edit in. I'm hoping I can have it ready by this Sunday, but this episode's definitely taking longer than typical. Just is what it is. But I hope you'll consider hitting things like and subscribe on this channel. Consider checking out Comic Tropes. And please, if you're in a position to, I would really appreciate your support on my Vampirella cover. Again, Indiegogo.com. Just look up Comic Tropes. You will see it. Thank you, everybody. I don't have the new keychain yet, Chrissy. It's upstairs. Sorry. I'm going to call it a night. Yes, don't forget to eat more burgers and read more comics. Or as I say, keep reading comics. Bye, everyone.